Hello and welcome back. Well, it's a new year and time to try something new. We're going to try woodworking. I'm a little late on starting the recording process, but all these little pieces were once pallet slats cut down into 3/4 inch pieces, and then each one's glued together, and then about every inch and a half I put in a new brad nail. And being that I used an air gun, a lot of them shot through at a crooked angle, but it is what it is. Doesn't look too bad. I think it adds a little bit more character than it would just normally. And then I took and 45 these. I took and dadoed this, and hopefully we can get this sanded down to fit inside of that. But because everything's all glued together and it's just nailed together with tiny little nails, it's not strong enough by itself. Which, being this is my first project and I thought it would look cool, I didn't really think about the feasibility of the strength. I'm going to use some angle iron to frame it. So it'll really be just a steel box with some cool looking wood inside of it. So where I'm going to bring you guys in at is I'm going to now cut these in half. So this will be like 2 sides and this will be 2 sides. And then we'll have to figure out how to get this to fit in there. Got to get that fence squared up so you get the perfect cut. Set the height. Run it right down that line. Look at how close that is. Oh yeah. Run the second one. Same thing. Perfect. Now this one I set up so I could make all the pieces the same size and everything's super square. Did have a little problems getting that fence squared up, so it'd make that perfect cut. But as you can see, I just take that little tiny bit right off the bottom of it there. Some pieces were bigger than others, which is exactly what I was hoping for. Alrighty, so we got the sides all cut up here. They're pretty much ready to go. I did find this board right here split, so I have to get some glue worked down to that crack and put back together. But next I'm gonna have to get this cleaned up. On my phone here it doesn't look too bad, but get up close so you can see it's got all the glue lines still on it, and my glue up was very rough, but we'll get it sanded down, and we got to get the thickness right so it'll go into these grooves. Worst comes to worst, we might have to open these up a little bit more, but it's pretty close now. Should be able to just sand it together. I treated this sanding process like a planer because it was so rough. I went back and forth like this, and then I did all the angles, that way it would plane out somewhat smooth. That way I wasn't going back and forth and having more of a warp in it than it already had. Took a lot more time to get the cross lines out of it, but it all worked out. Had to take a little bit of a breather. Right back at it though. Alright, so we have both sides close to being good enough. They're pretty roughed in. I mean, like, this one's closed, but it's still got a little bit of glue here, but we'll get down to that and get it roughed out of there. But next, I want to get it cut down to size. As you can see, like, this is my long side, and it's still a couple inches long on either end. And then this is my short side. It's, what, another like 3 inches too long that way. So I can get it cut down to size, then I'll have less to sand, and I won't be sanding stuff that I don't actually have to sand. So I think what I'm going to do is take it and find the best square area, like, because like I said before, you can like see like the bow here. It's just from me not knowing exactly what I'm doing when I'm clamping things up and putting too much pressure on it, and it just got a little wonky on me. The bottom side down here is a lot worse, so I think I'm going to be doing a lot more up top than I just cut off the bottom of it and call it a day. Okay, so first things first is we got to figure out how big a square we're going to need. So got the square out and got all the corners squared up. Had to put a clamp here to take the bow out of this, but it is what it is. So now I have to measure side to side and do the math for my inlay all the way around. So wish me luck. Hopefully I get it right. Okay, so I have my measurements for this. I have about 3 inches that I can take off of this. But first I want to take and square this edge up a little bit more. I'm gonna use this corner as my reference point. So I'm gonna square up this side and this side. So I have the table saw set up. We're gonna run over there and hopefully we can get this cut up without making any more wobbles in it. Alright, so we got it cleaned up some. It's not as straight as I would like it to be, but it's definitely a lot straighter than it was. So let's see if we can get what we need cut out drawn onto this. Alright, now that I have it all drawn out, time to get it cut. And I decided I can't get a straight enough cut with the table saw. I'm going to go with my circular saw, and I put down this level for a straight edge. So we'll get this ripped off, and then we'll rip off the other side, and maybe we'll see if we can, we'll see how close we are in size, and then maybe we'll clean up some of the other two sides. But let's get this done first. Due to the bow that this side had, I couldn't get it to cut straight or right. It wouldn't do what I wanted it to. This short side cut much better. It didn't have a bow in it to cut around or anything. Alright, so we got it all cut out. I took and drew a line along the top all the way around. That should be where the dado is on the inside, just to make sure it'll fit. There's a few spots like this, but it looks like it's bowed in a little bit, so that should come back out. But the rest of it is either inside the line or just on the line. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get this strap off of it. We're going to try getting these pieces set on here and dry fit it and make sure everything fits together. Okie dokie, so we got this bottom in. I didn't film it because, well, I'm not sure how to get that angle, considering I was all over the place. But anyway, we got it tracked in the sides. These corners fit up great. This side, though, we got a gap there and the same gap over there. So I guess I'm going to rip it back apart and, I don't know, I guess check square, make sure everything's the same size. It's off somewhere. Alright, we're back. It took some doing, but I got all of my joints tight enough for now. They're all pretty good. This one's a little a little spaced out, but a little pressure, and when I put it together for glue up, I'll make sure everything's just a little bit tighter. But now I'm going to take it all back apart, finish sanding, especially this bed. The walls are pretty close. Just a few more passes, just trying to get the cross grain cuts out of it and make it a little bit more smooth. Here I went after it with the hand sander and little file chisel thing. Alright, so we're working on these walls. I know I said they were pretty close, but when I was sanding it against the grain, trying to get everything smoothed out pretty equally. And I found some pretty deep scuffs in there, so it took me a little bit to get that out. But as I was working on that, I found like this had a pretty big crack in it, so I just made a little piece, made it fit in there, so now I have to sand that back down. But the backs are pretty good, or the fronts I should say, are pretty good on them. But when it comes to this inside side, I still have all of the cross grain scuff ups, and this one, yeah, just this one still has the line on it. Plus this one is majorly indented here, so I'll have to hand sand that in and taper it in so it looks kind of good. Then this piece right here, this chunk of wood, I don't know what kind of wood it is, but where's that? Right here, you can see it's got all kinds of splits in it. So it keeps splitting on me, and I just keep gluing it back together and waiting for another one to split. So hopefully I can get it all glued together and it'll stop doing that. Some of these pieces took a little longer than others. Just taking my time, going back and forth, little hand sanding, take the sander back to it, a little bit more hand sanding. Here I'm doing the tops of them, trying to make everything exactly the same. This is the very top, like the top of the box. They went together really smooth because I put them together that way and just cleaned them up. Here I'm setting it up to flip it over and keep everything exactly the same as it is. Flipped it over. Here I got started on it with, I think it's 90 grit, but it wasn't cutting it. It's too much of a difference, so I dropped back down to my 36 grit and really smoothed things out before going back to my 90 and cleaning it all back up. Alright, we're almost completely done sanding. I got this bed done. The walls are all done except for I had a little piece split out here, but we'll wait for the glue to dry a little bit more. We'll polish that off, and then the sides will be done, the bottom's done. But I keep talking about the bow in this bed, and you can see underneath the ruler here that there's just a ton of space under there. And right here is probably, what, close to a ½ an inch. And then you come clear down here. It's all the way down to the end. So what I think I'm going to do is just, when I put all the sides together and on it, I have the box, everything. I'm going to get everything leveled up, and then I'm just going to epoxy over top of it, and that way I have a level bed, and this won't matter. And if you're looking at this bed and you're seeing all these nail spots coming through, that's because not all of them went in as straight as that one did. But like I said earlier, I think it adds more character to it. They're not just pieces of wood gluing together. Alright, we got it all fit up. My corners are looking good. I did end up breaking this one in half, so I think what I'm going to do is just glue it all together, and then we'll come back and just work a little bit of glue in there. But I did end up finding a little bit of a corner that was a little high, so now I got my corners all fit up. So we're going to take it apart, glue it together, and get that drying process started. Alright, here you can see it's where it's broken at. The only reason it doesn't come apart is because those nails are in it. I did glue it together first, you know, that way it definitely was in the crack and I didn't have to worry about how deep it went in there. I just put a little line down these dado lines. Should have put more in there probably, but it is what it is now. Everything went together a lot easier this time, probably because there's a lubricant in there and just slides it together better. I did put these side pieces in there just to help keep the bow out of it. Then after I had everything glued together and tight, I put these pipe clamps on there just to help keep the tops of them a little bit tighter, because the strap clamp only did right where the floor of the table is, so these just help keep it a little bit more tight. Alright, so I got her all glued together and she's good to go. Other than I'm taking and running some glue in these lines just to fill them in and give them a little bit of extra strength. I did find up here where this one was broken in half, didn't quite go back together the way I was hoping it would, but I'm just going to run a little piece of tape here, put some glue in there, sand it off, see how it turns out. We might have to do something else with it. Okay, she's all dried up. Had this piece of tape on here. Didn't quite fill it in, but there's a lot more strength in there than there was. Didn't come out the back too bad here. Just a little tiny bit. I did find that apparently I had a bit of a run on somewhere, because there's a few drops different places, but I have to get that cleaned up now. That'll be fun. But other than that, I think it turned out really good. I mean, other than the massive bow right here, I don't think it turned out too bad. Alright, so we got that cleaned up. Got a little scuffed up, but I just took a chisel and took it off. Now I have to go around and clean up these corners. They didn't go together quite as smoothly as you'd like, but it is what it is. They'll round out and look all pretty. Alright, so I got these corners all rounded off. I did find where I broke it here, you can see it sticks out a little bit. I'll have to take the sander to that and get that smoothed down. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have to come in here and clean up right here. You can really see it where the glue was. But that's all the way around, so that'll take a little bit of time. Alright, we're back. We got her cleaned up. There did turn into a little bit of a line right here, but we'll clean that up before we stain it or anything. Pretty sure I'm going to epoxy this bed like a flat black or something. Be interested to know what you guys think about it. Should I do it like flat black and, I don't know, like clear coat the sides or stain the sides a different color? My thoughts on black are because like that'll show up if I do it like clear and like all the way around. It doesn't have a real good seal on it or a seam, so I just don't want that showing up. I think if I do a layer of flat black on it, get everything all level, I think that would look good. I did, where's that? I think it's right Yeah, this one right here. That break that was in it. Got that all cleaned up and smoothed out. That looks good. It's all blended in. Got my corners rounded off, so they're not all jagged, and did my tops. They are good. Let's see that. I like these nails in here. I think that's really cool. Too bad that one fell out. Alrighty guys, obviously it has a long way to go, but I have to get on to another woodworking project that I have no clue how to do. But I'll video it and you guys can see that, how that turns out. Hopefully it turns out okay. I'd like to know what you guys think about this project, how it's going, what you guys would do different, what you think I could do different. The next video I'll have to make the legs and the steel frame for it. That shouldn't take too terribly long, I don't think, other than the drying process for the glue. But thankfully, due to the editing of videos, you guys don't have to wait for that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And as always, have a great day.